Hello everyone, today we're going to be working on spirals. Alright, so there are a bunch of different names for spirals, types of spirals, ways to do it, but essentially it's just three-dimensional motion, low jerk, constant accelerations, so nice and smooth, and basically going to use this when you are trying to go in a direction you're trying to avoid fire. But as you progress, I think that what a lot of people tend to learn how to do is to constantly doing some kind of spiral motion. Even if it isn't a perfect spiral, it's going to help you not only evade fire, but also sort of control your motion. So you can see I chose to practice this in Crusader, and that actually helps a lot, not having to worry about asteroids just until you get it down. And I just took off Port Olisar and I just aimed straight at Crusader, and we're going to use this to sort of practice getting the good circular motion down. Alright, so here I'm definitely going to turn look ahead mode off because that'll just mess with our inputs or our perceived inputs. So yes, turn that off right away. Alright, so like I said, we're going to use Crusader to try to get the shape of this thing down correctly. So what you want to do is you want to put your gun cross, and that's that cross in the middle on the left side of Crusader, and you want to put the center of Crusader to the right of that gun cross, and you want to keep it there as you do this maneuver. Now what you're going to do is you're going to use a combination of pitch and roll, and you're going to move your gun cross around the outside of Crusader, but Crusader itself is going to stay relatively stationary on your screen. So essentially Crusader is your reference point. Now it's going to seem tough at first to get the pitch and roll combination exactly right so that it doesn't careen out of control, but since you're keeping Crusader stationary, essentially what you're doing is you're moving toward Crusader, but you can see that your TVI is moving. So what's happening? You're flying a spiral. Now once you've got the exact proportional combination of pitch and roll down, you want to slowly increase your pitch and roll until you get this. Now what you can see here is your TVI lagging slightly behind your gun cross, and that basically means that you're starting to overturn your vector, which means you're max performing your spiral. Now you want to keep this lag very, very small. If you start to lag too much, then basically your spiral is going to go out of control, and what's going to happen is your ship is going to start doubling back on its own vector, and then your movements are going to get a lot flatter, more predictable, and more like an aileron roll, and therefore easier to hit. So watch out for that. You want just a little bit of lag between your gun cross and your TVI, or no lag, but definitely not a lot. Otherwise, your vector is going to get out of control and it won't be a smooth or an evasive maneuver. Now it's important to note here that the width of your spiral, how fast you want to do it, how much roll, how much pitch, what method you want to use, and you're going to see a couple of different ones here. It's all going to depend on your ship, the situation, your power state, everything you would expect to affect basically your maneuvering performance. So you're going to have to adjust on the fly as you do this maneuver. Now if you were going to call the previous maneuver a barrel roll, although it's a little bit tight for the aerial definition of a barrel roll, this would be a barrel yaw. So pretty much you're going to do the exact same thing, except your reference point is going to be vertical, and instead of pitch and roll, you're going to use yaw and roll. So which one you want to use is going to both depend on your preferences, how comfortable you feel with each one, and the performance of your ship, because some ships obviously are able to accelerate better in some directions than others. But I caution you, don't automatically assume that a yawing maneuver is going to generate lateral Gs while a pitching maneuver will generate vertical Gs. It really depends on how big that spiral is and the exact characteristics of your ship. The reason why is complex, but there you go. So once we've got the basics of that motion down, we want to alter the maneuver to make it useful in combat. And once again, this is going to depend on your ship, the situation, all that stuff. But for this, I recommend going out to a comm array that's farther away. Now the location of the comm arrays and in fact, even Port Olisar, the distance from Crusader changes from patch to patch. Basically, you're going to have to go around and find one that works for you. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to comm array 275. It ended up being a good distance that I got a Crusader that was smaller than it was at Port Olisar, but larger than at 730, because 730, it was way too small for what I wanted to show here. So now we're at a comm array where I don't know, it looks like Crusader takes up about the same width as from the gun cross to the flare icon on the right there. And you can see here that I'm doing the exact same thing, except obviously my circle's smaller. And because of that, I'm able to pitch and roll faster. And having a tight spiral like this is both going to give you better speed in the direction you want to go, like if you were using this to escape or something, and it's going to make you harder to hit than in that giant, long, arcing barrel roll that we were practicing the motions of before. One thing I just wanted to reiterate is to watch your TVI, make sure it doesn't lag too much from your gun cross. Now this works with Afterburner. If you've got a nice tight spiral, it works for cruise mode. And in general, there's no reason not to do this when you're trying to escape or trying to fly somewhere and basically keep yourself from getting just a linear path that makes it easy for people to shoot you. Alright, so next, if you've got analog strafe, you can actually make this even easier. And all you do is you strafe enough to put your TVI on the outside of the planet, you put your nose smack dab in the center, and then you roll. And that's it. And you can increase your roll and just make sure your TVI stays where you want it to go. And then you can see me firing there. That's just demonstrating that this can be used for attack as well. We like to call this a skidded roll. So basically this is the exact same motion that you were doing before, except now because you've got that analog strafe that lets you point your nose inward, it makes it so that if you wanted to, you could attack a target. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated when you're worried about lag pips and all that, but you can rotate like this around your lag pips very carefully and with a lot of practice, and it works pretty well. But I'll save that for a different video. And here you can see me just demonstrating the barrel yaw version at this distance. And here you can see me attempting a vertically skidded roll, and it's a little bit tougher for me because my vertical strafe is a little less precise than my horizontal strafe. So now you're obviously not going to have a planet there all the time to get your spiral perfect. So once you've got the motion down, what you need to do next is you need to practice with just a reference point without a circle basically guiding you. So a good way to do this is to just use Port Olisar. So I'm going to go to Port Olisar, I'm going to speed away, I'm going to cut ahead a little bit in the footage here. Alright, so now like I said, we don't have a giant circle, but we still do have a reference point that we can rotate about. And one way you could do it is you could just find a HUD element, like in this one I'm going to use the little flare icon, and I'm going to try to put that over the object and keep it there. And then remember to keep the object horizontally flat, so don't let it drift above or below. Now you may notice that this circle is wider than the previous one, but smaller than the first one that I made. So to kind of break it down, the smaller your circle is, the faster you're going to be going, and the easier it is going to be to evade very precise shots, like from an Omni or from tarantulas or something. The wider you go, the easier you're going to be able to evade spray fire. Because the narrower ones, basically the spray fire will go back and forth, and you have a high chance of getting missed, even though he won't be exactly aiming at you at any given second. So I find that this wide of a circle on a lot of ships is really the good middle range, but if you don't have analog roll, it's going to be really hard to do this smoothly. So the narrower one that I showed in the last example with Crusader really far away, that's going to be better if you don't have analog roll. Basically, if you push a button to roll instead of twist a joystick or use pedals or something like that. And the reason why is because that tighter circle allows you to have that maximum roll without your vector going all crazy and you doubling back and basically ruining your spiral. And you can see me here doing the exact same thing but with the skidded roll, and basically in that case I keep my gun cross on the reference point and I move my TVI out to those inner HUD elements there to kind of get the same shape of the spiral but now my nose is pointed inward. And here's the barrel yaw version, of course. And here, this next part will show you, yeah, you can do it, roll left and pitch. You don't have to do a right barrel roll every time. And you can see now I'm just keeping the reference points centered on the left HUD elements there. Alright, so now, once you've got that down, it's finally time to take it and put it into basically your final combat state. And here you need to find open space and be able to do the same maneuver. Alright, so here you can see I'm cheating here and I'm using that star, just trying to keep it near my flare icon there and watching my TVI to make sure it doesn't lag. But I'm really just doing this to show you what you need to be able to do is not have to always use a star, but be able to use basically the rotation of, I don't know what you'd call that, the galactic sky. Basically the background of the universe, you need to be able to use that. So now you've got a point where you can do this without any objects or anything, just unaided, just in any direction you need to do it. And if you want to keep your eye on that star here, I'll show you what it looks like to sort of alternate between different sides of the barrel roll. And this will just be one more thing to throw your enemies off. See the star, I move it over to the other side. The TVI isn't lagging too far behind. I'm just going from left roll and pitch to right roll and pitch and all that kind of thing. Alright, well that's it for the video. I hope you liked it, and just remember, practice and try to figure out what speed, what type, all that kind of thing, what width of roll works for you. And it's going to take getting to know your ship and getting to basically get a feel for the right combination of pitch, roll, or with the skidded attack, strafe that you need to accomplish the maneuver successfully. And that's it, so fly safe.